In today's guided breathing lesson, we're going to talk about panic attacks, hyperventilation, air hunger, and some other breathing pattern disorders that can be feeding into the anxiety cycle, keeping you in this anxiety loop, and how we can use the breath as an inside-out intervention to help us modulate our nervous system, to help us get it back into balance, using our own breathing mechanics and our own physiology. Thank you for being here. Today's lesson is going to be hopefully informative, educational, and also practical. I'm going to teach you some tools, some breathing practices that you can start using today to help downregulate, calm the nervous system. Thank you for being here. My name is Coach Erin. I'm a physiologist, wellness and breathing coach. If you're new to my channel, like, subscribe. That really helps me reach more people who are dealing with this, which I know so many people are experiencing and suffering from anxiety. And it is my goal to help people use their own lifestyle modifications and their own breath to become more well and to not suffer from anxiety, to learn to manage it. So our breath is an inside-out tool for us to manage our nervous system and connect, and it is such a wonderful thing. But if you have been breathing suboptimally, it can be the thing that's feeding into your panic attacks, that's feeding into your air hunger. So the breath can either be hurting you or helping you here. And I want to teach you how to use the breath and breathe well in a way that's going to support your mind and body. And so that's my hope for everybody who comes to this channel. So thank you, like, subscribe, and say hi. Let me know where you're from. I'd like to have more interactions with people who are here on YouTube, know your experience. And when you share your experience, it really does help other people. You would be surprised how many people I have connected to just by sharing my own story. And even though it makes me feel very vulnerable, it also helps people because they know that they're not alone and they know that somebody has not only been through this, but gotten out on the other side, and that creates a lot of hope towards their own journey. So share your experience, share your story, and let's connect here on Breathe Well Coaching. Let's get into the lesson. Breathing pattern disorders, hyperventilation syndrome, air hunger. What is this? Breathing pattern disorders aren't talked about a lot, but they are a real thing. And what it is it's a movement pattern. Your breath is a movement pattern, engages muscles. So just like any other movement pattern, like a walk, a gait, can get out of alignment and you can get into a suboptimal movement pattern, you can get into a suboptimal breathing pattern. Now the issue with the breath is it is so directly connected to our heart and our nervous system that when we get out of rhythm in our breathing pattern, it can wreak havoc on our well-being, because the respiratory diaphragm, which is a muscle that's connected underneath the rib cage, and it's supposed to be our primary breathing muscle. When it gets out of sync, we are not going to be accessing the heart and the nervous system in the correct pattern or pace. And if you go inward and you look at that muscle, what I see most people who are experiencing that hyperventilation or the air hunger is they're moving this muscle throughout the day. They're moving it up. So when they inhale, they kind of suck in or reach up vertically on their inhale. Sometimes they're taking these big, exaggerated breaths. Sometimes they're breathing out of the mouth, and it's just like either fast breathing. That's something I was doing when I was going through panic attacks. I was breathing way too fast. I was also breathing a lot out of my mouth, especially when I was rushed or extra stressed. And I was holding my belly in, which made me kind of breathe up in this vertical pattern. This is paradoxical breathing. This is a reversed breathing pattern. This is something that we need sometimes when we are exercising at a high intensity, when we need to prepare for fight or flight, when we want to upregulate the nervous system. This is not where we want to be throughout the day. So when you breathe like this, taking in those big reaching deep breaths, you're taking an inhale where the respiratory diaphragm moves up and it kind of gets stuck in this inhalation pattern. What we want to happen on our inhales, we want this respiratory diaphragm to drop down and flatten out. And this kind of opens up the midsection so you feel the ribs expand out laterally, the pelvic floor stretch, the belly stretch, the low back stretch. Think of yourself breathing here. When you inhale, you get a 360-degree expansion, right? And then at exhale, everything kind of hugs in, gently relaxes in towards the midline. This means that our respiratory diaphragm, when we're inhaling and we feel that stretch, in this torso section, front and back, we get that stretch on the inhale. Now the exhale is really important too, because a lot of us never fully empty our breath. So we breathe a lot of inhales, a lot of short inhales throughout the day. And again, one of those dysfunctional breathing patterns is like a holding in of the stomach. If my tummy is tight here and I don't relax it, then I can't get that 360-degree expansion on my inhale. So that's a really good indicator that you're kind of holding a gripping pattern, and that's not going to allow you to reuse that respiratory diaphragm. So these are just things to start to look for throughout the day. Just like in our movement patterns, we have ADLs, which are activities of daily living. What do we do throughout the day? What are our mechanics throughout the day? How do we move throughout the day? I want you to look into how you're breathing throughout the day. Now, if you have air hunger and you have that sensation that I can't get a satisfying breath and I'm really focused on my breath, all I can think about is that I really can't get that deep breath, you're likely really focused on that inhale. And so for you, exhaling out of the mouth completely, when you fully empty, you kind of feel a little hugging in. That's going to be really helpful in making sure that we activate this respiratory diaphragm again. Now, this is not a quick fix. This is a muscle. Respiratory diaphragm is a muscle. If you've been using your secondary breathing muscles, your neck and shoulders, you've been up here the whole time, and this muscle's been moving in an incorrect pattern, it's gonna take some time to activate it correctly. So you can try this with me now if you're in a place where you can, explore your body, but I like to have my hands on my ribs when I start. You can even do this in front of a mirror so you can see if your neck and shoulders are moving, and then you'll just inhale. Feel that gentle opening. So you just see a little movement there where my ribs are expanding out laterally and they're opening, and then they exhale and they close down. Now, when you do this, inhale for about 4 seconds and exhale for 8 seconds. If you are not used to breathing this slow, this is going to be a little difficult for you, but this would be a really good place to start. If you're able to try this with me here, where you're gonna do a 4-second inhale followed by an 8-second exhale, and let's just see how that feels using the respiratory diaphragm. Again, it could be asleep on you. That muscle might need to be activated, and if you need more help with this, I work one-on-one with clients from all over the world to help them overcome breathing pattern disorder and overcome anxiety naturally. So if you need a coach to kind of guide you through this process, I have a 60-day private coaching program that's called Breathe Well, Live Well, and I would love to invite you to a complimentary coaching call if you think that's something for you. That program I tried to make as reasonable priced as possible. So if it's something that you really are struggling with and you want a little bit more accountability and coaching with, then go ahead and jump on that free discovery call and we can connect, and I can definitely help you through this. I've helped many people overcome these types of things using this program. So fingertips, thumbs on the back, fingertips on front. Inhale, fill. Exhale. Now I'm breathing so you can kind of hear me. You don't have to breathe that loud. It's actually better to breathe light. Inhale, fill. Exhale, release, easy. It's a 4-second inhale. 8-second exhale. Four-second inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. 8-second exhale. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Try closing your eyes and really getting connected with that diaphragm. Feel the stretch on the inhale, and then make your exhale double the length of your inhale. And if it's hard at first, then just make the exhale a little shorter. That's okay. You don't want to feel stressed when you're doing these breathing practices. You want to be able to work within your limitations today, your means, and you can slowly start to lengthen out the breath. So slower breaths using the respiratory diaphragm are going to activate the parasympathetic nervous system state. This is maybe a state of your nervous system that is not been used, okay? And you can take a break. The reason it's going to be accessed is there's 2 holes in the respiratory diaphragm muscle. And like I said, there's some connections to the heart functioning, so that's why our blood pressure can lower and our heart rate can lower when we breathe slow. But also the other hole has the vagus nerve running through it. And if you've started in this journey, you might have heard a little bit about the vagus nerve, but it's connected to our parasympathetic nervous system state. And we need it to calm down, to feel like we can rest and digest. And the other thing that breathing is going to help is it's going to help balance our oxygen and CO2 level. Usually when you're hyperventilating and you have air hunger and some of these breathing pattern disorders, you're really sensitive to CO2. So anytime you feel that CO2 rise in the system, even just slightly, you are prompted to breathe again. And this gets us into this over-breathing cycle. So I like to think of it this way. You've been in the habit of over-breathing and therefore you get really, really sensitive to any time you have to breathe slower or hold your breath. Sometimes people will have a very short breath hold. That means that they take a couple natural breaths, hold their nose, and right when they hold their nose, within seconds, they're gonna want to breathe again. And that's your clue that, whoa, okay, I'm really reactive to this feeling of CO2 rising up in my bloodstream. What we want is we don't want you to be so reactive to that, because I don't want you in the pattern of this over-breathing. I want you in a pattern of breathing light, breathing using the respiratory diaphragm, and breathing slow. So there's so many videos on my channel that will guide you through those breathing techniques in a much more calming way. And I want you to access those. I'll put the link in the description. Today's lesson was really trying to introduce the concept of why the way we breathe, our breathing mechanics, is super important if you're trying to overcome panic attacks and send that signal of I'm safe, things are balanced to the nervous system. I really do believe that when you clean up the breath and the biomechanics, and you stop holding your belly in and you stop using the neck and shoulders throughout the day, and you start to breathe slower throughout the day, that really does start to clear up some of those physiological symptoms of anxiety. But there's also mindset, there's also wellness tools we can use, and I'm a huge proponent of mental health counseling. And that's something I don't give, but I am a huge advocate for it as well. And trying these more holistic things to help us manage anxiety. Anxiety is inevitable. We are all going to feel anxious throughout the day, but getting in that anxiety cycle and having full-blown panic and anxiety attacks and having like your nervous system on and not being able to shut it off, that is what I really help clients overcome. So if you found this helpful today, if you have many more questions which might arise after today's chat, because it's just not enough time to get into all the details of this, go ahead and reach out to me. My email is in there and I offer a free coaching session to connect with no pressure. I'm not somebody who's going to put you under pressure to buy my program. I really am here and I'm called to do this type of work to support people, because I personally didn't feel like when I was going through this that I had anybody other than a therapist, but I didn't have anybody to go through all the other things I wanted to change in my lifestyle, like wellness, like breathing. So I didn't have anybody to walk with me on that journey, and that's what I get to do as a coach. I get to help people in this way. So thank you for being here. Remember, 360-degree breath, that's one of your takeaways. Start to wake up this respiratory diaphragm and just start to be mindful of how you're breathing, your biomechanics throughout the day. Breathe light, breathe slow, and try to use these small adjustments and see how they impact you over time. I'm here if you need me. Breathe well. Have a wonderful day.